do apply. So I'm requesting your indulgence, Chair, in terms of seating arrangement. By the look of things, the minority have now seated in the seats that must be occupied by the parties that worked the ground. So I was suggesting that the seating arrangement must be properly arranged.
Honourable Member, there's no seating arrangements during many plenaries. The members can sit wherever they want to. You can even sit amongst the other parties if you want to, so there's no seating arrangement here. Continue, Honourable Minister. Continue, Honourable Minister.
Honorable Chairperson, my colleague, Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, Honorable Njabulio Nziza, Chairperson of Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, Honorable Bongani Bongo, Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, the Chairperson of Independent Electoral Commission, the IEC, Mr. Glenn Mashinini, the representative of the CEO of the Government Printing Works, Ms. Michelle Modise, Honorable members of the House, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans, good afternoon. Mete Bogomokweli, please be governable until I finish the speech. It is a great honor and privilege to present to this House the 2019-20 Home Affairs budget and in the process to outline our plans. Every human being found within the borders of the Republic of South Africa will at some time or another need the Home Affairs Department, unless such an individual deliberately and for some sinister motive decide to exist in contravention of the laws of the country. Hence, the Department of Home Affairs has two main arms that defines its functions. The two arms can be described broadly as the civic matters and also as the immigration matters. I've just realized since coming to the Department of Home Affairs that many people believe Home Affairs means immigration and immigration only. And this is misleading and unfortunate. Actually, Honorable Chairperson, the civic matters of Home Affairs is the biggest and the most active. This is because any individual who wants to live a stable, productive, and trouble-free and beneficial life within the confines of the law, such an individual has to be serviced by the Home Affairs Department at least 3 times within their lifetime. And of course, it will be 4 times for those who decide to get married. Your first ever interaction with Home Affairs is when you arrive into this world through the Republic of South Africa. Home Affairs must record your arrival and put you on the population register. This is done by awarding you a birth certificate to prove that you have arrived. This document will indicate who you are, when did you arrive, where in the country did you arrive, and who gave birth to you. On this document, Home Affairs also awards you a number denoted as your identity, which will help you in all your transactions and interactions with the state, the corporate world, and fellow human beings until you depart this planet. Your second interaction with Home Affairs is, of course, when you turn 16 and you take an ID. And your third one is when you decide to get married. Your fourth and last interaction with Home Affairs is when you depart this planet, because Home Affairs must record that indeed you have left and never to return. This is called a birth certificate. Because of our relationship with the rest of the world, some of us need a 5th interaction with Home Affairs, and that's when you are awarded a passport. I have deliberately detailed these interactions, which people might regard as obvious, but for 2 reasons. Firstly, to remind you what Home Affairs is mainly about, but secondly, to warn you that this seemingly simple interaction with Home Affairs, while necessary, may sometimes turn into horror, absolute horror. I'm talking here of the type of horror that may turn your life upside down. It may bring your life to an absolute standstill or even force your life into a tailspin. Today in this budget speech, I want us to travel together on a journey to make sure that the 5 interactions of our people in this country with Home Affairs Department are pleasant and as pleasant as they could be. We need to work together to eliminate possibilities of unpleasantness. It may be essential for me to outline some of the issues that may turn your life upside down and make it unpleasant. Your identity might wrongly be recorded and you become a person you don't know. Somebody might steal your identity and practically steal your life by impersonating you. Somebody may steal your document and commit crimes in your name. And you may be married to a total stranger you have never met before. For those who never went through these experiences, it might be difficult for them to comprehend what I'm trying to convey. But for those who went through these horrors, no explanation is necessary for them to understand what I'm trying to say, because they've lived it. Today, I've brought 2 South Africans into this house, which I wish to introduce. We have Miss Tammy Swartboy. May Tammy stand up, please, and greet the house? Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Tammy took her ID in 1995 and lived a normal life like any of us. She stays in Vereeniging in Gauteng. In 2004, things turned very horrible for her. Another woman staying thousands of kilometers away in Nelson Mandela Bay stole her identity and resumed life as Tammy Swartboy. This means that whatever this woman did, it was regarded by law as having been done by Tammy. And I can assure you she did a lot of bad things. Even when this other woman got married, the law regarded Tammy as the one who got married. Tammy received summonses of debt she never knew about. 2 kids which she never met before were registered as hers in legal documents. She couldn't get officially married because the law won't allow anybody to marry twice, unless in the case of divorce or death. She could not open accounts because she was supposed to be heavily indebted. Her life went into a tailspin and a virtual hold. She lived this horror for 14 years. Fortunately, we reached Tammy when the story was reported in the media, and we gave her back her identity within a period of 48 hours. She's now living as she should, and this happened a month ago. I went to apologize to her a month ago on behalf of the state. Today, I wish to apologize once more in this august house as a sign that will never allow this to happen to any other women. We have asked her to become our ambassador of Home Affairs on identity fraud and fraudulent marriages. We want to work with her to identify women who are already living the situation that she went through, and she has very humbly agreed to work with us. As to the evil women that did this to her, we are on a trail. She has to be locked in very soon. Thank you very much, Tammy, and I'm very sorry once more. The issue of fraudulent marriages, Chairperson, annually the department come across an average of 2,000 such fraudulent marriages. From April 2018 to date, the department came across 2,132 fraudulent marriages. Of these, 1,060 were truly and indeed fraudulent, and the department annulled them. But 464 were found to be legitimate, and the department refused to expunge such marriages from the register. These are called marriages of convenience. There are people in our country who marry for convenience. This usually happens between a South African and a non-South African. The South African is rewarded with huge sums of money, and the non-South African gain easy citizenship through this marriage. There's a mistaken belief that when transactions through such marriages have been completed, you just approach Home Affairs and you demand that the marriage be expunged. I wish to warn people today that Home Affairs cannot do that. We can't just expunge a marriage because you no longer need it. If you don't need a marriage, you go to a judge. You go to a magistrate or judges, and they must cancel that marriage through a normal divorce proceedings, not Home Affairs. The marriages that are truly fraudulent, like the 1,060 I've spoken about, can happen for 3 reasons. 1, fraud syndicates consisting of Home Affairs officials and other marriage officers outside Home Affairs. 2, employment agencies who ask you for your ID because they are going to look for a job for you, and you provide everything to them. Instead of giving you a job, they sell your documents for somebody to marry you without your knowledge. 3, when there's a duplicate identity, like it happened to Tammy, when somebody impersonates you. Of the original 2,132 fraudulent marriages, we are still left with 326, which we are still investigating. Our second guest today is Mr. Esther Sitlabela from Hazyview in Mpumalanga. She has 4 children, but the records show that she has 7 children. She doesn't know the other 3 children, but they appear on a record nonetheless. What is more heartbreaking is that her last born son, who she's here today, Esther. Can you stand up with, yes, that, yes. She's with her son today, as you can see, he's 20 years old. He was born in March 1999, but Home Affairs could not give him a birth certificate, not even an ID, right up to that age of 20, because there was a belief that Esther gave birth to another baby boy in December 1999, and it was argued that she could have delivered another baby 3 months later, which biologically is true, but the fact is that she never delivered in December. This boy, who have just stood up, had no certificate or ID for 20 years. He had to write matric through affidavits. Even police could not help Esther. She, on her own, and I can tell you she's my hero, stood up to do an investigation, and eventually she made a breakthrough. She found out who are these 3 children who are appearing on the documents, and unfortunately, they were not South Africans. And one of them has literally replaced her own son for a period of 20 years. It is only through cooperation of rogue elements within Home Affairs that such a thing could happen. Home Affairs officials could be placed in this situation. Such cooperation from Home Affairs can only be secured through a bribe. We are busy following up to find out which scoundrel in Home Affairs could do such an inhuman act to put somebody's life in such terror for 20 years just because they wanted money. 2 weeks ago, after hearing the story of Mr. Mishard Boy and how we solved it within 48 hours, a doctor colleague of mine phoned me and told me the story of Esther. That's why I came across her. I called her and we solved her son's birthday problem within 24 hours and his ID within 5 days. I don't wish this to happen through any South African. And as such, we are asking both Esther and Tammy to be our ambassadors and help us. We have analyzed this problem, and the department came upon a conclusion that if we have to deal with this matter of identity fraud, the real solution lies in having everybody having a document right from birth. And hence, Chairperson, we are planning with Minister Zweli Mkhize, the Minister of Health, whereby no child will leave a hospital without the birth certificate. An unabridged one who reflects ID and who the parents are. Please don't ask me what we are going to do about runaway fathers. They are not fathers really, they are just baby makers. So we are going to go on with this project regardless of them. Out of the 4,000 health facilities, 1,435 can deliver babies, and unfortunately at the present moment, only 391 can issue birth certificate at birth. So our plan is that all of them, and according to this rollout plan, by March 2021, we'll have finished connecting 251 health facilities, which are responsible for 84% of all births in our country. And by 2023, we'll have completed all 1,445 of them. When this is done, we'll call upon parents, Home Affairs officials, hospital authorities, and you as leaders and other leaders in society, never to allow anybody in South Africa to leave a hospital without the printed and an authentic birth certificate. When this happens, the Mrs. Swart boys and Mrs. Klelas of this world and their children will cease to suffer the horrors that put their life on hold. Home Affairs is not only going to rely on proper birth certificates right from the beginning to stop this forgery and fraud. No, we have already started other measures. The major one is that every Home Affairs official who has to issue an official document, be it a birth certificate, ID, passport, marriage certificate, or certificate, can only access the system through their password and their fingerprint. This system is called BACAM, or Biometric Access Control Management System. With this system, no Home Affairs official can ever claim that their password or fingerprint has been stolen, because that's what they tell us when we confront them with passwords. But nobody can steal your fingerprint. I don't know under what conditions can it ever happen. Every Home Affairs official who is empowered to issue these documents will have to register on these biometrics. We are taking this precaution so that in future, I no longer have to introduce the type of women I've introduced to you. But we are still left with women who are still in this situation, and we want to be helped to identify them and help them. Honorable Chairperson, because this issue of identity is so important to the country, to all South Africans, but the issue of fraud and forgery spoils it. At the dawn of democracy, South Africans were issued the green barcoded ID. Unfortunately, this was easy to forge and to defraud, as I've already indicated. In 2013, the department introduced the smart ID card, which looks like a credit card. I can assure you, as I'm standing here, forging or defrauding a smart ID card is next to impossible. Since 2013, we don't know any case. Maybe the thugs will still learn in future. But for now, they have not yet found a method. So every South African need to have it. When the department started in 2013, we identified 38 million South Africans who had to migrate from the green ID to the smart card. Until now, 13 million South Africans have been migrated to the smart ID, but we are still left with 5 million. To this number, we add our children who turn 16 every year. There are only 412 Home Affairs offices in the country. And unfortunately, issuing a smart ID card, because of its sophistication, cannot be done in an ordinary office. You need a special equipment to do so. And unfortunately, out of the 412 offices, we only have 193, which can issue the smart ID card. So we are going to add 26 more to have 219 and continue in that way. Honorable Chairperson, banks in South Africa also want all their clients to have a smart ID, because they've discovered that it's easy. It's not easy to forge it. Banks in South Africa lose 50 million rand per annum to identity fraud. So they have discovered that when their clients are on a smart ID, such fraud doesn't happen. Hence, banks are working with us on a PPP, whereby clients of every bank need not go to Home Affairs offices to queue anymore. You just apply online to your bank, then they'll call you, and then take biometrics and send it to Home Affairs. We are still in control of that, they just help us. Unfortunately, at the present moment, only 13 branches of banks in South Africa can offer this service. 12 of them are in Gauteng, 1 in the Western Cape. For the other provinces, they'll have to wait for the next financial year. We'll add 25 more bank branches this year and 70 next year. Chairperson, today, we have brought trucks. They are waiting outside there. We are giving you an opportunity to apply for your smart ID. Ordinarily, we take 13 days to issue with a smart ID or a passport. But honorable members, I'm promising you, if you apply today, we'll issue with your smart ID in the next 48 hours. This is possible because as members of parliament, you are a small number in a confined space, so it's easy to serve you within 48 hours. Guests in the gallery can also make use of this service because anybody can use it. But I advise you not to do it because you won't be here within the next 48 hours. What the guests rather do, I'll give you a list of the banks you can go to. Absa Lifestyle in Centurion, FNB Lifestyle Centurion, Standard Bank Centurion, FAB Group, Pretoria East, Nedbank, Arcadia Pretoria, Absa Towers, Joburg Central, Kilani Standard Bank, Kilani Mall Standard Bank, Simon Street, Joburg, Lakeview, Nedbank, Roodepoort, Nedbank, Rivonia, FNB Merchant Center, Standard Bank, Canal Walk, Cape Town. For those who stay in far forbidden place like myself in Limpopo, sorry for now, wait for the next list of banks. Digitization. Chairperson, I want to advise that Home Affairs have got 286 million records in our archives. That stretch back from 1900. These are archives of IDs, marriage, etc. Now, these are very important. We have started the job of digitizing them. Up to now, we have digitized only 5 million. It's very common in Home Affairs to get somebody applying to get vault copies of unabridged documents from 1940, 1950, etc. We have got them, but unfortunately, they are on paper. The ink is starting to fade. That's why we are busy digitizing them. And it will take us quite a number of years, but we have started. While Home Affairs Department is doing identification, but we also do economic development. by issuing visas. Out of 193 countries, member states of UN, 75 have got visa-free status in South Africa. Of these, 16 are in our continent and they are SADC countries. The other 59 are all over the world. Today, I wish to make this announcement. We are adding 7 more countries for visa-free status. That is Qatar, UAE, New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, Cuba, Ghana, Sao Tome, and Principe. We'll immediately enter into discussion with these countries as to what a visa-free regime from them will look like and how we're going to work with them. We still have a homework for the 3 main countries that account for 30% of the population of the world. That's India, China, and Nigeria. Today, I'm announcing that we are sending 2.5 times. We are increasing rather by 2.5 times the staff in China, India, and Nigeria who are going to process our visas. The president also announced the issue of e-visa during the 2 States of the Nation addresses. And we have started with this e-visa system. We are testing it at Lanseria Airport. We'll finish the testing in October. From there, we'll roll it out where you don't have to get the visa. You just apply, we respond to you via email, you rush to the airport, and you are in the plane. The border management. For now, I wish to talk about the border management. The Border Management Authority Bill was passed by this House, and unfortunately, it got stuck in the NCOP for the past 2 years. Our job is now to go and unstuck it because it's very important. Border management is not only about people. It also manages counterfeit goods, stolen cars, hijacked children, and all sorts of wrong things that happen in our borders. And we are going to try and deal with that. We are also trying to establish one-stop centers at 6 border posts. That's Beitbridge, Fixback, Kopfontein, Lubombo, Oshoek, Maseru. That's between Lesotho, Mozambique, Botswana, and Zimbabwe. The government printing works. Many people believe all state entities are losing money, cannot be managed. I can tell you today that the state printing works, which is a government entity under public works, is one of the shining stars. It has been funding itself for the past 6 years. Actually, it sends profit back to Treasury. In this next financial year, after paying its 500 employees, it will hire 105 extra employees. It will purchase equipment to the value of 517 million and still be left with a profit of 153 million, which they will send back to Treasury for all of you. So we wish to thank Government Printing Works, and we have started helping other countries. They've just signed last week a relationship with Swaziland, and 2 weeks ago I was in Namibia because we believe we have got enough expertise to print documents for them. We drew valuable lessons from experiences of innovators in the ID for Africa. Now let me take this opportunity to thank colleagues, Deputy Minister, for a warm working relationship, but for the DG and his team also for warm working relationship, but also in the gallery, we have got managers from Randburg, Mr. Lekalakala, and from Pretoria, Ms. Ndlemela, and we also have Ms. Makupela from Skopek in KZN, who are our excellent performers. We thank them very much. Chairperson, building collectively a world-class Home Affairs will indeed advance the goal of growing South Africa together, a South Africa of justice, equity, and prosperity for all. I'll take this opportunity to table for the consideration of this House the 2019-20 budget of 8.3 billion rand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, may I just request those of you, as well as our guests in the gallery, who have your cell phones on, will you please put it on silent or switch it off? It is a disturbance. I don't want to interrupt you, Honourable Minister, when you were making your input, but there were a number of phones that went suddenly into some mode of ringing. So please switch it off or put it on silent. The next speaker is the Honourable Bongo.
Thank you very much, House Chair, Honorable Minister, Dr. Aaron Mtswaledi, Honorable Deputy Minister, Mr. Njabulo Nzunza, Chairperson of the IEC, Mr. Glenn Mashinini, Acting CEO, represented by Ms. Modise. I stand on behalf of the ANC to support this budget vote as tabled by the Minister. Honorable Chair, we're meeting in July. July is a very significant month in the history of our country. It marks the birth of the struggle icon, Isitwalandwe, our father, hero, a peacemaker, and the father of the nation, Baba Mandela. Centrally to the July month, it reminds us about the supreme sacrifice that Madiba and his generation made for the people of this country to achieve peace, freedom, democracy, justice, while reclaiming the dignity of our people. We can say, Chair, without any fear of contradiction, that our liberation struggle has produced much of value and lessons that many people in the country and in the world can learn from. South Africa needs to draw the same values and lessons as we speak directly to the challenges confronting South Africans and in general, and confronting the Home Affairs Department in particular. Under the apartheid regime, with its Bantustan offspring, the main objective of the Department of Home Affairs was to control black people and deny them their citizenship, identity, dignity, and the freedom of movement. The National Democratic Revolution, as led by the ANC, sought to build a society with an improved quality of life for all citizens. The ANC, in its 54th National Conference, held in December, deliberated on the state of home affairs and raised concerns about the presence of undocumented migrants in the Republic, which poses both economic and security threats in the country. Congress went further with an empirical evidence that the majority of asylum seekers in the country do not qualify for refugee status and protection, but rather they are here for economic activities. Conference deliberated on legislation that needs to be undertaken, and it deliberated on the access and acknowledged the initiative taken by the department in modernizing and developing a single identity system which is based on biometrics to be integrated as part of the whole system of the justice cluster of integrated management system to fight crime. Congress of the ANC recognized the perception that arises in the process of this, that align itself to issues of xenophobia, and resolved that we need awareness programs to make sure that citizens are educated and society is educated on this narrow nationalism. The ANC support this budget vote because on what the minister has said, the implementation of the policy of the ANC, it is heavily detailed on what the minister has already raised. The mandate of Home Affairs meant transforming Home Affairs into a modern, digital, secure custodian of the national identity, responding to the present and the future needs of the circumstances, and run with professional officials and make sure that we follow the NDP as it was outlined by the ANC. The Home Affairs Department is a very important department, and it makes 4 critical contributions in the country. Among others is enabling economic development, and it contributes to security, and it contributes to effective service delivery and supporting governance and administration. However, the budget, as it was outlined, it has went down. The allocation of 2019-2020 financial year is 8,339 billion. In comparison to the 18-19 financial year, it is adjusted with 9,047 billion. And if you look in rands, it's about 707.7 million. But when you look at the inflation rates, it is just over R1 billion. Honorable House Chair, the Department of Home Affairs will be focusing on positioning itself as a modern and a secure organization, improving and expanding client interface services, and establishing an operationalized border management system. The Home Affairs IT modernization program is currently underway, and it will radically improve the service delivery for our people. In the context of 2019 having been declared by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa as the year of action, the Department of Home Affairs will be introducing a world-class e-visa regime. The implementation of this e-visa regime by the Department of Home Affairs, which is at a functional stage, it is expected to be tested late this year, 2019, with a full production that will take place in November. And it is a serious enabler for the tourist growth in the country. This world-class e-visa will provide for easy and a secure access to the country for visitors. This system will enable tourists to apply for visa online, resulting into quicker turnaround on time for visa adjudication. Honorable Chairperson, this will bolster our tourist figure and create economic activities and job opportunities, particularly for the youth of our country. Chairperson, the Border Management Agency should thus be strengthened, and the department should play a crucial role in ensuring that the strategies developed by the department to document everyone who comes to a country is properly implemented. The department should strengthen its management of asylum seekers. There should be a strict adherence of international convention and protocol in processing application. As you know that we are a signatory of a lot of UN convention and so on and so forth. The performance of the two entities which we have raised, one of which is IEC. I have raised this that we would wish to congratulate the IEC for the work it has done in ensuring that it deliver an election that did not cause any civil war in the country. My experience of having visited, Chair, many countries, after an election, a civil war erupts because of the systems that are developed by the IEC. We congratulate the IEC also, Chair, for the award that they got at the United Nations Public Service Awards in the category of combating corruption and crime in the public service. The ANC support this budget vote. Asina nzondo, asina mone, siyayidumisa i-ANC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Maglua.
House Chairperson, the Constitutional Court, like all South Africans, has instructed the state, and in this case the Department of Home Affairs, to uphold the dignity of all South African citizens and their families. The former Minister of State Security, Honorable Bongo, should therefore not have been allowed to participate in this budget debate, seems to his numerous allegations of corruption and bribery against him. Last week, the court gave the department 2 years to amend foreign spousal visa laws which require foreign spouses for children of South African citizens to leave the country to renew their visas. Now, this is a victory. The challenge will, however, remain if the department take its own time to fix legislation that could have resulted in the separation of foreign spouses from their families and once again making refugees and asylum seekers the scapegoats of the department's failure. The corruption, bribery, wrongful and unnecessary rejections, and the delaying tactics on the part of officials of Home Affairs have resulted in several frivolous court cases. The Deputy Minister Nzuza has been tasked with overseeing and driving 3 distinct areas of operation within the department, namely refugees and asylum seekers management, Moyatapile Improvement Campaign, and legal services. When it comes to the legal services, however, the Constitutional Court on many occasions described your department's Honorable Deputy Minister litigation as obstructive, this floppy, this shocking, and it has no conscience towards refugees and asylum seekers. These comments are damning indictment on the State Department. The placement of legal services specialists in the core branches of the Department of Home Affairs are, in your own words, Deputy Minister, operating under severe constraint and lack of personnel. They have cost this department millions. Now the same constrained, understaffed, and overwhelmed legal department has to defend the legal action and blunders of the Department of Home Affairs, and in turn becoming a laughing stock again. I've seen, Deputy Minister, that you have been in Durban on Monday, you know, and I would like to emphasize that our presence, and even Minister, our presence and assistance to the community out there, it should come from Home Affairs, from the Bansdam itself. We cannot have a minister to intervene and suddenly we have people that has been helped. Our office cannot every time call upon Mr. McKay and we have been helped, or Mr. Muketsi. We say the problem is a systemic problem. The problem is SITA. SITA must come to the party and they must assist us as far as that computers is concerned. Just now this afternoon, I joined a colleague and almost stood for an hour outside and could not be helped. We have received a budget of over 8 billion for the 2018-19 financial year. Both government and the printing works, as well as the Independent Electoral Commission, has submitted and presented their annual plans. The Democratic Alliance would like to assure you, Minister, that we will proactively monitor the procurement renewal process of contracts under the department, as well as the investigations related to the visa facilitation, as well as the national identification system and the fixed base operator under Fireblade Aviation at OR Tambo International Airport. Minister, this includes allegations of state capture and early naturalization of the Gupta family. Watch this space, Honorable Bongo. We will do so because we believe in an open, transparent, and a principled government. The DA is encouraged by the many Home Affairs officials who are working tirelessly to make the department work for all. The DA praises all the advocate Vanaras of this world, Honorable Bongo, who advocate justice for all. The DA horns corrupt officials who prey and exploit innocent immigrants. Our vision to see Home Affairs working again, the DA pledges, is to ensure South Africa achieve an effective, efficient, and coordinated border safety plan, something the ruling ANC cannot do. To attract foreign nationalists with scarce skills and business to South Africa, something the ANC ruling party cannot do. To subscribe to the independence of the IEC, something the ruling ANC cannot do. We will remain resolute, open, polite, and dedicated. Minister, corruption is a continued problem within the Department of Home Affairs and South Africa borders. In May, here's the answer, in May 2016, 15 people, including a deputy director of this department, were arrested for fraud. Similarly, in 2007, March, 18 people were arrested in connection with fraud and corruption at the Vicksburg border, including 10 police of Home Affairs and 5 officials of Home Affairs. In 2018, former Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba lied under oath about the Fireblade saga. Last but not least, Chairperson, in 2019, the ANC has gave South Africans the middle finger by electing Advocate Bongani Bongo as the chairperson of this committee. I thank you.
The next speaker, honorable members, the next speaker, is it Honorable Pambo? Is it the member's maiden speech? Yes, it's the member's maiden speech. Continue, honorable member.
Minister, in a classic style of a self-hating black, you brought here today 2 black women who have been lynched by your department to come parade their wounds, to come parade their pain. They have been victimized by your department, and you see no problem with putting a face to your inefficiency by using black women. You must be ashamed to come here and address us after what you have done. Honorable Chairperson, the Economic Freedom Fighters rejects...
Order, honorable members, order.
Honorable Chairperson, the Economic Freedom Fighters rejects the budget vote of the Department of Home Affairs. The Department of Home Affairs has been one of the most cruel and hellish state departments since the advent of democracy towards Africans. It has been problematic because of the inability of the ruling elite to properly locate the strategic role of the department in advancing the developmental ideals of the country and the continent. If properly located, this department could be the most strategic department for our renewed focus to foster Pan-African unity and development. Chairperson, we as the EFF are unapologetically Pan-Africanist in character, in posture, and in action. It is for this reason that we must make it known, although it is obviously clear that the Department of Home Affairs is not Afrocentric and oftentimes actively undermines the goal for a united, borderless Africa, and this is evident in the decline of asylum seekers who have been processed between the years 2009 and 2019. This is so because it has become clear to everyone across the continent that South Africa has become anti-African in policy and practice. And this became evident in the President Sonna's speech, where he said absolutely nothing about Africa and the goal towards African unity. The EFF will push that South Africa must lead efforts for a borderless Africa with one currency and one common language. We now have a minister, Swahili.
No,
We
order,
now have
honorable
a
members,
minister-
order.
We now have a minister who is openly Afrophobic, who, while at the Department of Health, foolishly said our public health is collapsed by the influx of fellow Africans. Minister Motsoaledi fails spectacularly at the Department of Health. He will surely fall and fail black people across the diaspora at this ministry too, and will lead a massive campaign against our fellow Africans. The reality is that you will never find white people at Lindela Repatriation Center. It is always African people who are chucked out of this country by the Department of Home Affairs. This confirms the view held across the continent that South Africa is an anti-black, xenophobic state, only too willing to inflict the most unimaginable pain on black bodies. In the immediate, the Department of Home Affairs must stop the practice of treating African people from other countries as if they suffer from leprosy. They are our siblings, our brothers and sisters, and must be made to feel at home. How is it that an African country located in Africa continues to be Eurocentric, continues to undermine the children of Sobukwe, undermines the children of Biko, the children of Winnie Mandela? We will remember you, Minister, for who you are, the man who stood here and humiliated further black women. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is the Honorable Van der Merwe. Order, honorable members.
Thank you, Scopa Chair. House Chairperson, Honourable Minister, Honourable Deputy Minister, MPs, the officials from the Department of Home Affairs, IEC, and Government Printing Works. Just a few weeks ago, on the 8th of May, South Africans made their voices heard through the ballot box. The IFP thanks each and every voter who supported our democracy by casting their vote, the ultimate act of patriotism. We thank the voters for giving the IFP an increased mandate, and we pledge to serve the electorate to the very best of our abilities. However, it would be remiss of me not to mention our concern with the struggling nature of the elections past. The allegations of indelible ink disappearing, faulty zip-zip machines, people voting more than once, and other shortcomings had placed at risk the very credibility of our electoral system. We are, however, grateful that the IEC has already started looking at new technology to replace the old voting systems, and we hope that Treasury will give their support in this regard. Chairperson, 17 years ago, the then Minister of Home Affairs, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, appointed a commission of inquiry to look into South Africa's electoral system. The commission agreed that our electoral system lacked accountability and a mixed system was proposed. But why do we still talk about the Van Zyl-Slabbert Commission 17 years later in 2019? Because this year's elections were marred by dodgy characters appearing on party lists to be MPs and MPLs, most notably sitting on this side of the house, not you, Mr. Lakota, and a general outcry from the public that they wanted to see greater accountability from our electoral system. Also because at the time, Cabinet had promised to implement the recommendations at a later stage, but that later stage never arrived. So it is our hope, Honourable Minister, that you will in fact reopen this debate because electoral reform is needed. Minister, your department faces many severe challenges. Whether it's the traumatizingly long queues at Home Affairs offices, or computers that are offline for days on end, or critical vacancies that go unfilled, or the applications that lie unattended for weeks and months and years on end. And I'm quite shocked today to hear that MPs can get a smart card ID within 48 hours, when in fact for citizens, it will take maybe 48 months to get that documentation. So we should be speeding up services, not just for MPs, but for all our citizens.
Order, honourable members. Order.
So your act of patriotism, Minister, must be to fix what is broken within the Department of Home Affairs. Because when the Department of Home Affairs fails, it fails the most vulnerable in our society. When Home Affairs fails, it fails pensioners, it fails vulnerable children, it fails young people who cannot access job opportunities. When Home Affairs fails, the consequences are dire. When Home Affairs fails, it fails people like Elise Marsha O'Brien. She is currently married to an Egyptian national, somebody she's never met. When her fraudulent marriage was discovered, her real relationship ended as Elise could not prove her innocence. After 3 years, Home Affairs has still not annulled her fraudulent marriage. Her life has been ruined. Chairperson, the Minister spoke earlier about scoundrels at the Department of Home Affairs who are corrupt. But the IFP believes we need severe jail sentences for those who sell South African paperworks for a few hundred rands. In the same way, the IFP believes that we need to secure our porous borders and deal with lawless elements who are flouting our laws. Just recently, South Africans were left reeling when our own SAPS officers were attacked by undocumented migrants in Hillbrow. In December 2017, you, Honourable Minister, when you were still the Minister of Health, told us that 60% of babies being born in the Steve Biko Academic Hospital were from other countries. Just last week, Gauteng Premier David Makura told us that his administration needs a better plan to deal with illegal migration into his province. Clearly, your government realizes you've got a challenge, but as is always the case with the ANC government, you seem not to have a plan. Throughout South Africa, even outside of the precinct of Parliament, you find businesses operated by undocumented migrants who flout our laws. They do not pay tax, they do not pay VAT, and they pay their staff less than minimum wage. Our trucking industry is in crisis. Lives have been lost because South African job seekers are saying they're being shunned in favor of undocumented migrants who can be paid less. Let me be clear today, what I'm speaking about has got nothing to do with being un-African or xenophobic. It's got to do with the rule of law, it's got to do with the Constitution, and it's got to do with being patriotic. When the safety and security of our state and our citizens are threatened, we need to act. Chairperson, last month, Nigeria's President Muhammad Buhari signed an executive order to withhold visas from foreign workers whose skills are already readily available in Nigeria. His was an act of patriotism. He put the people of Nigeria first. This budget before us needs to fix many problems. Some will be easily fixable, but others will require real political will and real patriotism. The IFP looks forward to working with you, Honourable Minister, and to partner with you in fixing the Department of Home Affairs and in putting
The
South
honourable
Africans
member,
first.
Madam
Thank you.
Marvin, thank you very much. I now call upon the Honourable F.J. Mulder.
Thank you, House Chair. Agbare Voorsitter, Minister Motsoaledi, Adjunct Minister, Zuza, lede van die kabinet teenwoordig, lede, amptenare en gaste. Het is vir my 'n voorreg om as Vryheidsfront Plus lid van die nasionale vergadering saam met elkeen van u Suid-Afrika en sy mense te kan dien. South Africa is a community of communities, a country with 11 official languages and a coat of arms bearing the words in Khoi, literally meaning diverse people unite. It addresses each individual effort to harness the unity between thought and action on a collective scale. It calls for the nation to unite in a common sense of belonging and national pride, unity in diversity. Chairperson, Chapter 3 of the Constitution of South Africa states that there is a common citizenship, that all South Africans are citizens and equally entitled to the rights, privilege, and benefits of citizens, which the Department for Home Affairs is the custodian of, the identity and status of citizens of South Africa. On the 5th and 6th July 2012, the Department of Arts and Culture hosted a Cohesion Summit in Soweto, which I and other Freedom Front Plus colleagues attended. Today, 7 years later, we must ask ourselves what the level of social cohesion is and if nation building is still on the South African agenda. Chairperson, the Freedom Front Plus is concerned about the fact that several acting positions in the department are outstanding, including the position of Director General since August 2018, the Deputy Director General Civic Services since August 2017, as well as the Deputy Director General of Information Systems and Counter-Corruption since late 2014. These are critical positions. Chair, reports are received from time to time that some South African citizens has unsuccessfully tried to attain identity documents and passports. The consequences of such inefficiency can be worrying. Honourable Chair, Minister, the lack of an integrated approach to border management and inadequate provision of acceptable port infrastructure will have to be rectified. The Border Management Bill is still with the NCOP and was supposed to be operational in the 2017-2018 financial year. The 6th Parliament will hopefully revive this bill. Chair, the department is underfunded for the 2019-20 financial year, with an allocation of 8.3 billion in comparison with the 2018-19 adjusted allocation of just over 9 billion rand. It shows a nominal decrease of more than 700 million rand, and with the cost of inflation, the budget shows a real decrease of 1.1 billion or 12.3%. Honourable Minister, through you, Chair, the Freedom Front Plus urges you to get this department that has been in existence since 31 May 1910 back on track as the custodian of the identity and the status of citizens in South Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mulder. I now call on the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Chair. The Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Aaron Mtwaledi, the Chair of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, Honorable Advocate Bongo, the Whip of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, Honorable Musa Chabane, members of the Portfolio Committee, distinguished guests, we are called to serve. We are called to do all in our power and capabilities to serve the people. The people come first. They are the reason we exist as a department. We are not doing people a favor. In fact, we are offering a service that they are deserving as protected by the Constitution. The services we offer our people are the sole responsibility of Home Affairs. And as such, this responsibility requires us to be at our best all the time. We have no option but to be the best, because it is only Home Affairs that can affirm or grant citizenship to foreign nationals. We are the only ones who can grant non-South Africans authority to enter or leave South Africa. We are the only ones who can allow non-South Africans to access, to come and work, study, and to do business in South Africa through our visa regime. It is only Home Affairs that can grant asylum seekers a refugee status in the Republic. It is only Home Affairs that can designate a port of entry to facilitate movement of people and goods in and out of the country, opening a gateway for international trade. These are tasks that we must execute with a high level of consciousness that a compromised immigration system results in a compromised country. Our immigration system has a direct impact on our national security and the economy. Chairperson, we have a huge responsibility in our shoulders to maintain a world-class immigration system that is in line with the theme of this budget vote, which is building a world-class home affairs. If we are to do this, we must learn to convert themes into actions and dreams into reality. And to do this, we must be frank and open. If we want to have a world-class home affairs with a world-class immigration system, we must be comfortable to discuss discomforting issues. The Greek mathematician teaches us that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. To solve our problems, we must be upfront, frank, and direct. South Africa today is a great place to live in many people in the world aspire to live, work, and to be South Africans. We have developed laws that are humane, business-friendly, and go beyond just conforming to international standards or immigration to allow people to access South Africa, because we do not deny them access outside of the laws. We give refugees the same rights as citizens, except for the right to vote. They have access to our social services, such as basic health and social grants. We do not run refugee camps, but we allow integration of refugees to local communities. SADC countries, with the exception of the DRC, do not require a visa, but only a passport to visit South Africa. We do not deny foreign nationals to work, study, and to do business in South Africa, provided they comply with the Immigration Act and related legislation. The White Paper on International Immigration of 2017 contends that international immigration in general is beneficial if it is managed in a way that is efficient, secure, and respectful of human rights. In general, nations flourish where people with different origins, skills, resources, and cultures are able to live and trade peacefully. Despite these open and friendly channels of immigration, we still have those who enter the country illegally, undermining the sovereignty of our country. The issue of illegal immigration is not supposed to be a difficult issue, because those who seek to come to South Africa must do so in compliance with our laws of this country. In the operation conducted in Marion Hill and Tongat Plaza between the 1st and the 7th of July this year, we arrested 39 foreign nationals who were driving trucks without permits and legal status to be in the country. One employer has already been charged and more arrests are imminent. We do this working with the police. We do not have a police department within Home Affairs, Honorable. You must check your facts straight before coming to such platforms. We will curb the appetite of employers to employ undocumented foreign nationals, all in the name of profits. They must know that when they break the law and employ illegal immigrants, they will face consequences, and our inspectorate unit will leave no stone unturned. The major reason why they do this is because they seek to maximize their profits by abusing foreign nationals, by paying them below market value salaries, because they know that they are in the country illegally. This can no longer be allowed to continue. We will fight the corruption that allows people and goods to enter the country illegally. We have a serious responsibility to capacitate our inspectorate and allocate the necessary funding in order to enforce immigration laws that decisively deal with illegal immigration and that impact on our economy and social security spend and national security. Chairperson, we are moving forward with the one-stop border post project. This will be implemented in the 6 priority land ports between South Africa, Lesotho, Swaziland, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. This will promote intra-regional trade between our countries and deal with and reduce illicit trade as well as illegal movement of people within our borders. The OSBP project will also reduce congestion and improve turnaround times in our points of entry This project is in line with our plan to build a world-class Home Affairs. And this we do with other countries that we share borders with. So we do talk to our African brothers, contrary to misleading statements. Further ease of cross-border movement will be enabled by this project to provide also a legal permitting route for SACDEC to grow to economic migrants. We will also place our efforts towards improving efficiency in our refugee reception centers. We have to speedily conclude the adjudication process of asylum seekers who seek refugee status. We are allocated in 30 missions abroad where we process visa applications and offer civil applications. Maybe the reduction numbers on the refugees is also part of our ability to process their requests much quicker. We are now moving towards a new era that will bolster economic growth and create jobs for our country. We are moving forward with the implementation of the e-visa regime. And I think it is proper that we take fellow members and honorable members through this process. This regime will place technology at the center of our operations by making easy yet secure to enter South Africa. The e-visa regime will see tourists and visitors to South Africa applying for their visas online, and these will be sent to a central adjudication and approval whilst our visitors sit at the comfort of their home. The e-visa regime will result in the issuing of virtual visas. The paperless virtual visa will combat visa fraud. This will open South Africa as a desirable destination through the ease of our visa systems. The e-visa regime will have huge tourism growth implications for the country. The e-visa regime is anticipated to go on full production in November 2019. We're not talking something that we are not in the process of doing. This is something that we're already doing. The department currently runs an advanced passenger processing system. This allows us to see and target undesirable visitors before they even board the flight from their destination. This gives us capacity to stop undesirable visitors for purposes of national security. We are now going further by establishing the National Targeting Center that will do risk assessment on visitors after they have boarded flights as a secondary control system. This is critical to ensure that undesirable and risky visitors are kept at bay, creating a secure environment for the country. World-class systems will work with world-class infrastructure like the e-gates. The National Targeting Center will be used to profile trusted travelers. These travelers will then be registered on our e-gate system, which will open for them automatically as they present themselves on our airports of entry. These are world-class systems that are linked with international policing and security. We are building a modern Home Affairs, Chair. We are moving forward with our e-gates. And this we are doing in partnership with AXA. After we have registered these trusted travelers, this will mean South Africans who are bona fide citizens who are not flagged on the stop risk engines will now be part of our trusted travelers, which will drastically ease human traffic for citizens, giving us more capacity to speedily handle visitors in our airports. The trusted travelers, security vetted by our systems, will be able to check themselves in and out of the country using the e-gates, which will register them on arrival and departure. This is in line with world standards. As a result of this technology, our airports will now rank higher within the international community, making it a desirable destination to do business. Chairperson, we are building a world-class Home Affairs with a world-class immigration system. And we will fail, and we will not never fail, Chair. And this budget will enable us to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. I now call on the Honorable Member Mishwe.
Chairperson, honorable members, according to the 2014-2019 strategic plan of the Department of Home Affairs, it is mandated to efficiently determine and safeguard the identity and status of citizens, as well as to regulate immigration to ensure security, promote the development, and fulfill South Africa's international obligations. The department has sadly failed to execute these two mandates effectively. Take, for example, the complaints of women who have discovered that they were married illegally and unknowingly to strangers they have never met. Some victims have been fighting with Home Affairs for years to have their marital status corrected, but the department has not helped them. Some are unable to get employment or open bank accounts because their proper marital status cannot be verified. Chairperson, if a South African woman discovers that she was fraudulently married to a stranger, what is preventing the department from tracing which officials were involved in facilitating this deceit? Surely the department should have a team that properly investigates these cases of fraud. Those found guilty should face the full might of the law. It is unacceptable that women should be trapped in a fraudulent marriage, sometimes for years, without assistance from the department. The story that the Honorable Minister told this afternoon about Tammy Swarboy is a classic proof that if Home Affairs officials are willing, they can assist women who are trapped in such relationships. We heard that Tammy was assisted within 48 hours after suffering the horror and humiliation and harassment for 14 years. Now the question is, why can't this be done for all women who are in a similar situation? There are hundreds, if not thousands, of women who are still experiencing similar abuse and harassment. Secondly, the movement control system also leaves much to be desired as our borders remain porous. Many illegal immigrants who get involved in criminal activities remain untraceable by investigators because their fingerprints are not on record. This leaves the police with cases they are unable to complete as they cannot trace these criminals and punish them for their crimes. So we want to, as the ACDB, call on the minister to ensure that our borders are tightened. There are tight controls at our borders so that all guests and visitors to our beautiful country are properly documented. And if those among them would commit crimes, so that it would be easy for our police to hand them
The
until they find
Honorable
them.
Member Mission,
Thank you.
your time has expired. Thank you very much. I now call on the Honorable Zungula from the ATM. Okay, we proceed. I'll call the Honorable T.A. Kanyile from the DA.
Chairperson, in a constituency with 19 schools, with roughly 16,000 learners, there are about 250 learners who do not have birth certificates, and most of these children are South Africans. Thousands of children who have been treated like nobodies do not enjoy education because they are undocumented and have thus placed a burden on teachers. No South African child should have to leave hospital without a birth certificate. Therefore, the Department of Home Affairs must move fast to ensure that labor wards have in-house officials. The issue of insufficient capacity must be addressed immediately. Last week, hundreds of people were turned away at the Isipingo Home Affairs as it can only serve 80 people per day. This shows that there is no innovation and appetite to serve. The ANC government is failing vulnerable citizens of this country. Nomvula Mchali from Standardson in Mpumalanga was left with her father as an infant and has been waiting for 31 years for a birth certificate. This government is talking about a new dream. Yet Nomvula's quest for a simple birth certificate will seemingly remain just that, a dream. Despite anecdotal evidence, a referral letter from social development, a certificate from church, and her father's death certificate, Nomvula still remains without a birth certificate for more than 31 years. I emailed this information to the DDG, Mr. Thomas Sigama, on the 28th of March 2019. Up until today, I have not received a response. If I, a member of parliament, mandated to conduct an oversight, cannot get proper service from this department, how can we expect ordinary citizens of this country to access that service? Today, Chairperson, many South African women are married to husbands they have never met. These women are struggling to find identity, are denied an opportunity to find work because some of their so-called husbands are blacklisted. It took the ANC government 14 years to get Miss Noma Tamsanga Boy's fake marriage cancelled. She further discovered that there were 2 children she did not know registered in her name. Following her meeting with Minister Motsoaledi, he committed to having her issued with a smart card ID within 48 hours. We congratulate you, Miss Boy, for finally being liberated after waiting for 14 years. The big question remains, what and were the reasons and criteria used by the minister to commit to issuing Ms. Boy with a smart card ID within 48 hours? When we as a portfolio committee were informed that there are 906 remaining cases of victims who have not yet been assisted. If the minister is serious about this corruption, whereby ID copies and signatures are fraudulently submitted, as in Ms. Boy's case, it is enough reason to accelerate the issuing of smart card IDs to the aforementioned cases. If he fails to do this, these women, just like Ms. Boy, will have to wait for a further 14 years, if not forever. Government needs to act at a pace of a bullet train in ensuring that all South African women are properly documented and enjoy equal benefits of being citizens of this beautiful country. Chairperson, the government fails to conduct oversight and members of the community continue to suffer at the hands of officials who manage those offices like they are running their tuck shops. On the 18th of June, I received a call in Kaveninbegi municipality residents that their home affairs offices were locked at 11 o'clock. When I contacted one of the office managers, he further advised and further confirmed also that the officials who had the office keys was on leave and they were waiting for him to bring the keys, driving from Bethel to Secunda, which is more than 60 kilometers away. I urge the minister to investigate this matter and address it accordingly. It is only and only the DA government that will ensure that South African citizens, young and old, are properly documented and their
Order,
rights are
honorable members,
protected.
order. Thank you very much, thank you. The honorable member, JJ Maike, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Order, members, order. Honorable Mukwili, order.
I think I've been listening very carefully to the speakers from the opposition. And it seems as if all the problems that exist in South Africa belong to the ANC. Listening very carefully, I never heard any of them in their speech saying that we need to work together to solve the problems that South Africa faces. My apology, the IFP said
The
that.
honorable member Maike, please
So-
take your seat. Honorable, okay, you'll remain standing, there's no problem. Honorable Medlua,
Thank you.
you're on your feet.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would want you to request Honorable JJ to speak louder. We can't hear him.
Continue, Honorable JJ.
No problem. I was thinking that crying, standing on the podium, crying, moaning, howling, whinging won't solve the problems that we have here. As it had been said already, that whilst under apartheid, the main objective of the Department of Home Affairs was to control black people and deny them their citizenship, identity, dignity, and freedom of movement. Ours is to ensure that every South African, especially the poor, experience an improvement in their quality of life. With everything having been said by those comrades who talked before me, I'm singling comrades, not everybody that talked. It might be appropriate in relation to this topic to start by this poem by Taunga Zulu. It reads as thus. Born 2,000 kilometers north, traveled to the south shores, heart planted in South Africa. However, division was planted before. This foreign concept of borders, people ironically adore, heart planted in South Africa, born 2,000 kilometers north, so a foreigner. Who were we before someone else decided we were another? It is a gift to be born of a people whose wonderful heritage stretches so far. If you do not get service from Home Affairs, you have nowhere to go. We are Africans. Africa, remember who you are. Chairperson, the mandate has meant the transformation of Home Affairs into a modern, digital, secure custodian of national identity, responding to the present and future needs and circumstances, and run by professionals operating in a highly secure environment to protect the records of the nation within the governance system. In line with the National Development Plan, Home Affairs makes 4 critical contributions to the nation: enabling economic development, contributing to national security, enabling effective service delivery, and supporting governance and administration. At the ANC 54th National Conference, the ANC committed itself to positioning of Home Affairs to be the backbone of security, service delivery, and the developmental state. Under the apartheid regime, the main objective of the Department of Home Affairs was to control our people and deny them the right to citizenship, identity, and freedom of movement, among other injustices. With utmost pride and humility, the department has been transformed and services are delivered efficiently and effectively. While immigration is about the enforcement of laws, rules, and regulations, it is a critical strategic importance that it be anchored and aligned to the promotion of economic development, job creation, and trade investment in South Africa and within the SADC region, the African countries, and the rest of the world. Chairperson, the developmental state must be built in a better Africa and a better world. The imperative is therefore to balance the need for economic, cultural, and social development of the country against its security needs and the integrity of our state and society. Security must include security of the country, communities, and each individual, including foreigners and immigrant communities who are part of South Africa. Social cohesion includes the integration of immigrant communities into South African life to enrich and grow the society. Chairperson, I also think to myself about ports of entry and people who are working in these ports. What would happen if they stop working? And I also think how the apartheid regime instituted a coup d'etat in Lesotho just by stopping work at the port. I also remember when bakeries from South Africa would deliver bread every morning to Swaziland. The bakeries would be queuing at the borders. What would have happened if there was a stoppage of services at the port of entry? Swaziland received from Chappies to Millie from South Africa. Every day, the bakeries were queuing at the borders. What would have happened if there was a stoppage of services at the port of entry to Swaziland. As our deputy minister has said, if one doesn't or can't have services that are supplied by Home Affairs, there's nowhere else that they can get those services. Madam Chairperson, the implementation of an e-visa regime by the Department of Home Affairs, which is at functional testing stage, expected to be implemented out in this July 2019, and full production by early November, is a serious enabler for tourism. This world-class visa regime, as he said, will provide for easy, efficient, yet secure access to the country for visitors. This system will enable tourists to apply for their visa online, resulting to a quicker turnaround time on visa adjudication. This will bolster our tourism figures and create new economic and job opportunities for the youth in particular. Madam Chairperson, I would also like to say that in terms of the port of entries, I always wonder why Home Affairs is not taken as some people doing essential work there. As I've already said, if the port is closed for Swaziland and Lesotho, then we are talking about people's lives. Essential services means that if people's lives are affected, some of these things must be, they must be taken as essential services, which is something that needs to be debated and maybe a decision taken on that. We definitely, as the ANC, without any doubt, support this budget vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maike. Honorable members, it looks like we do not have speakers from Good Party and the IIC. On that note, we proceed to item number 14, which is to call the Honorable Member Lowase from the ANC. Over to you, Honorable Member.
Honorable House Chair, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Minister, and Honorable members, not forgetting the honorable guests in the gallery. Chairperson, the strategic purpose of the Home Affairs Department is to effectively and efficiently determine and safeguard the identity and status of citizens. It must also regulate immigration to ensure security, promote development, and fulfill South Africa's international obligations. Home Affairs is the backbone of the national security, service delivery, and citizen development, since it is the custodian in the unique identity of all citizens and documented foreigners residing in South Africa. Home Affairs has a responsibility to make sure that all South Africans have identity and have status. Furthermore, Home Affairs must maintain a credible and secure nation's populations register, supply enabling documents to citizens as well as foreign nationals. Home Affairs plays a decisive role as the backbone of the developmental state, and it's central to enabling security and service delivery. It plays a developmental state and is central to enabling security and service delivery. It plays a crucial role in enabling all South Africans to proudly claim their citizenship, their identity, and their dignity. The department must therefore balance its security and service delivery functions and develop strong ties with communities. Honorable Chair, any evaluation of the performance of the departments must be assessed against the medium-term strategic framework of the ANC government. The document guides the programs and ensures there is a comprehensive response to the challenges of the current conjuncture. The Presidency 20-year review of 2014 and the National Planning Commission's 2011 diagnostic report highlights poverty, inequality, and unemployment continues to negatively affect the lives of many people. Too few people have work, investment is too slow, and education lags behind our requirements. The weak state of economy impedes our efforts to reach our developmental goals. The second phase of our democratic transition calls for bold and decisive steps to place the economy on the qualitatively different path that eliminates poverty, creates jobs and sustainable livelihoods, and substantially reduces inequality. This requires a radical socio-economic transformation and a sustained focus on addressing an even quality of service delivery. The key areas that Home Affairs responds to in terms of the medium-term strategic work are effectively defending, protecting, securing, and managing our borders. Further ensuring that identity of all persons in the country are known, secured, and streamlining regulations to reduce burden of importing core and critical skills that are needed for the economy. Honorable Chair, in securing an effective and efficient management of immigration, South Africa has a signatory to international convention and protocols as per the UN Convention on Rights of Refugees of 1951 and OAU Convention of 1969 on the protection of rights of refugees and asylum seekers. It is very cognizant of our international and moral obligation towards meeting these obligations. South Africa is also one of the largest receiving states for refugees and asylum seekers in the world. In this regard, we have an obligation to ensure that all asylum seekers are issued with valid documentations, enabling them to return in the country legally, as well as speedily reviewing decisions that have been found or unfounded and manifestly unfounded. Extraordinary measures must be employed in finalizing applications for asylums, such as improving information technology, extending operating hours, opening refugees reception offices on Saturdays, improving filing system, and the queue management. The Department of Home Affairs must also revisit permit conditions and put effective mechanism in place to ensure that they create a balanced and acceptable degree of protection of labor law. This must, however, be done not to affect other sectors of the economy, such as tourism and other labor incentive sectors. There must also be a better coordination between the Department of Home Affairs and law enforcement agencies to improve implementation of Immigration Act. This must be done to ensure that asylum seekers and refugees' entry and their movement within the Republic is well handled and their whereabouts are well known. The Department of Home Affairs must develop a system for monitoring application timeframes. Honorable members, the mandate has meant the transformation of Home Affairs into a modern, digital, secure custodian of national identity, responding to the present and future needs and circumstances, and run by professionals operating in highly secure environment to protect the records of the nation within the governance system. In line with the National Development Plan, Home Affairs makes 4 critical contributions that has already been mentioned by my fellow comrades. The transformation of Home Affairs is about ensuring that it is an essential pillar of the pursuit of these 4 critical areas and a reliable partner for ordinary people, government departments, and the private sector in pursuit of these goals that are so central to the security of the nation. Chairperson, like the previous comrades has already mentioned, the ANC 54th National Conference in December 2017 deliberated on the state of Home Affairs as a key function of the state. Conference raised its concerns over the presence of undocumented migrants in the Republic, which poses both an economic and security threat to the country. Conference went on to cite empirical evidence that majority of asylum seekers do not qualify for refugee status and protection, but are rather economic migrants. It is deliberated on these challenges relating to legislation regulating access to citizenship by foreign nationals and acknowledged, and the initiative of the department had embarked on the modernization and development of a single national identity system, which is based on biometrics to be also used as well as integrated justice system to fight crime more effectively. Conference clearly articulated the need to reconsider policy relating to centers for asylum seekers during consideration of their status. Concurrently, the ANC recognized the perceptions that arise during the process and called for awareness programs to combat xenophobia and education society against narrow nationalism. Conference welcomed the stakeholder forum of the department as a demonstration of the people governing as per Freedom Charter. While immigration is about enforcement of laws, rules and regulations, it is a critical and strategic importance that it be anchored and aligned to the promotion of economic development, job creation and trade investments in South Africa and within SADC regions, the African nation and the rest of the
The
world.
Honorable Member Lawasa, your time has
I
expired.
thank you.
I call on the Honorable Lukota.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to start off by saying that the Department of Home Affairs, I'm sorry, Chair, Mr. Minister, the Department of Home Affairs carries an important responsibility in terms of completing our democracy. Enshrined in our Constitution at Section 19B is the right of citizens to stand, to vote and stand in elections to any of the legislative bodies founded in the Constitution. And this right was recognized earlier on, and Home Affairs was given the task to draft a system that would enable us to afford the opportunity to do this to all citizens of the country. As things stand, the present Electoral Act is inconsistent with the Constitution because it grants citizens the right to stand for public office only as individuals, only in local government. But the Constitution says that to stand in public office and, if elected, to take their positions in any one of the legislative bodies founded under the Constitution, which means that people are entitled to stand for provincial as well as national as independents. To the extent that we have made this promise to the citizens of our country, but that we are not fulfilling it, we are denying people the promises of democracy that we made when we achieved democracy. And we must correct this, because Section 2 of the Constitution makes it quite clear that any act that is inconsistent with the Constitution is null and void. We can no longer afford to risk this, and we do need to act on this very soon. We of the Congress of the People will approach again this House to present in this House a bill that will make it possible for us to correct the Electoral Act. The second point I'd like to make, that we will do that, it's provided for. The reason we are in here is because we have a right to be here. Nobody can stop us from being here and to do that. Secondly, Chair, Honorable Minister, I think the points that you were making about the corrections that are being made at Home Affairs and some of the critical advanced actions that are being taken are very good. Hopefully that they will continue to be more powerful than what they are at the present time. However, we must not forget what lies behind, because...
Honorable Member, your time is now expired.
But you know, Chairperson, no, man, you know, this is not how to conduct this. Because, you know, people disrupt us, you don't protect me, and then you let them...
The next speaker is the Honorable Nyonso. Shaky Mum, you'll be after this Honorable Member. Eh?
Chairperson,
Continue, honorable member.
Chairperson, the reality on the ground is that Home Affairs documents. Sorry, Chair.
Are you looking for your Home Affairs documents?
As Pan-Africanists, Chairperson, we are for the abolishment of borders and establishment of the United States of Africa. However, with this, we are no means promoting izinto ezirong ezenziwa kwi-department yethu. Chairperson, the PAC support the budget vote.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam. Order, honorable members, order.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The National Freedom Party welcomes and supports the report of the Department of Home Affairs, Vote 5, tabled here today. Honorable Minister, allow me to congratulate you on your appointment as the Minister of this department. And I'm certain that you will do justice to this department in the experiences I've had with you under the Department of Health. And I know that you will listen, you'll investigate, and you will act accordingly wherever it is necessary. Now, Honorable Minister, I must admit to you that I was doing a speech, and then I decided to stop and just make some points. That's how well I think I know some of the challenges that are experiencing at Home Affairs. And I would like at some times, Minister, to have an hour with you to highlight some of the challenges that I have identified in the various branches of Home Affairs so that we can work together for the common ground of finding solutions to them. Let me also congratulate the department in terms of its smart card rollout, because I think you're doing a fantastic job as far as that is concerned. However, Minister, I think one of the major problems you seem to be having is your IT system. More often than not, it is down, and people have to stand in those queues, and it seems to be a serious problem. If you take particularly the issue of the Amgeni Road branch, now, it's normal on any day to have 300-400 people in the queue, 500 people in the queue. More often than not, most of them are turned away, either because of your IT system and also because the lack of the number of branches in the area, because you're also accommodating people from the north, south, people are leaving all the other areas and coming. So I think you need to look at one somewhere like in the Bridge City area, so people, Phoenix, Inanda, Newlands, Kwamashu can go to that center. That is having quite an impact on the Namgeni Road. But let me also tell you, you know, I've had a problem of a grandmother that I met at the bus stop while I was parked there. Tokozani Ndichwa, 63-year-old woman that's trying to get an ID for a grandchild. They requested a daughter to come, who was in school in the university in Mtata, comes in there, and your branch in Tonga, particularly Mr. Derrick, failed to assist this lady despite numerous calls. This is not normal in all your branches. Your Amgeni Road branch, I must give them credit. Whenever there's a need, they act, and they act appropriately and timeously. So I must give them credit. But matters of this, it's a problem, because when you take particularly the aged and you're expecting to go get them to run there, they don't have an income, they rely on social assistance, I think it's not acceptable. The going rate, Minister, I'm going to tell you now, 30,000 rand for a work permit in South Africa. 30,000. And it's not difficult to trace them, because all you need to do, and I hope your system tells you, if you caught the one person, who is the one that authorized and approved that, and if you follow that and see how many under that particular official that was issued, you'll be able to trace them. That's how it is. Going rate, Minister, at the border is 50 rand. If you don't have no passport, that's why there's so many in the country, I can assure you. 50 rand, in and out. They just allow you in and out of the border. And I'm telling you, these are facts. Put a red overall, Minister, and you go there, they don't know you're the minister, and I promise you're going to be able to see that. But, now, Minister, one of the problems people are
Honourable
having
member,
is when
your
they
time
get
is now expired.
Oh, the National Freedom Party supports the report tabled here. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is the Honourable M. Hendricks. Order, honourable members.
Honourable Chair,
Order.
In such a quick time, we have a Minister of Home Affairs that is up and running. I hope he can keep up the pace. Honorable Minister, the IEC has made us proud and we want to acknowledge that, and that's why most of us are here. Al-Jamaa is thrilled that the budget for identification services has increased by 56 billion rand, a whopping 23%. We heard the banks are investing in further professionalizing identification services. It only gets better now that you have appointed 2 ambassadors to make the nation proud of progress to provide the best identification services. This year, I got my ID and passport in 2 weeks from your Wynberg office. So I've had a good experience. Well done, Mr. Minister. Al-Jamaa is disappointed that the budget for status services has decreased by 88%. Marriage status speaks to the human dignity of women. Delayed legislation should not be an obstacle to issue and register marriage certificates arising out of religious marriages, especially marriages of Muslims who've had a religious ceremony and got their labola. So when a Muslim woman presents her religious marriage certificate with labola clearly stated and certified by Commission of Oath, her marriage must be registered and a certificate issued. So when her husband dies, they can take the death certificate, which says married, to get, for example, the motor car transferred to her name, claim UIF, death benefits, etc. We welcome the budget increase in dealing with refugees and asylum seekers. This shows that South Africa, for the first time, has a caring government. The minister has given leadership by giving orders not to disrupt the schooling of refugee and asylum seeker children. Minister, please help. Include college and university children. Many university children cannot continue their studies this month because of delays in the status of their parents. So please help, Minister, so young girls can continue their studies. I would like to hear that you will help the African child who was trying to improve the educational facilities. It is, however, high time that selected churches, temples, and mosques be designated as refugee reception centers and not just the half a dozen that we have now. Honourable Minister, the President in his SONA identified a very important aspect that affects the department, and that is strengthening the state. We question the department's increase in outsourced services from 40 million to 120 million. Minister, please heed the call of the President to capacitate and equip the staff, the department, instead of outsourcing. We want to, like the...
Honourable Member, your time is expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Tito. It will be the member's maiden speech.
Thanks, Chairperson, honorable members of the EFF, and my fellow South Africans. Chairperson,
Order, honourable members.
Chairperson, we want to state categorically that we are opposed to this budget. The Department of Home Affairs is yet to account for many of its sins and for handing over the country on a silver platter to a clique of corrupt individuals bent on milking the resources of this country. Malusi Gigaba and his group of thieves are still out there enjoying publicly subsidized pensions while they have caused untold damage to this country. Secondly, we have just come out of a grueling national and provincial elections which almost plunged the country to disaster because of the ineptitude of the Independent Electoral Commission. The IEC must be immediately capacitated to ensure that the future elections are credible and beyond reproach. The many incidents of double voting and shortage of ballot boxes in some voting stations are an indication of how the IEC was only wholly unprepared for these elections. The double voting crisis could have been averted if the IEC had not ignored the provisions of Section 24 of the Electoral Act, which could have guarded against incidents of double voting. Furthermore, the IEC must scrutinize their systems to have measures that will ensure that the zip machine is linked to the voters' roll. We must also be able to use the government printers' work for the printing of ballot papers to ensure that functions of the state, as important as voting, are not outsourced to private companies. Most importantly, the IEC must be given a budget to constantly engage with the citizens of South Africa on voters' education. We encounter many people who wanted to vote but did not know that they had not registered to vote. All IEC officers must be capacitated with people tasked with voter education. Chairperson, the Department of Home Affairs has a backlog of thousands of people who are applying for their IDs, passport, and asylum seekers applications. Most of these people whose lives are hindered by the inefficiency of this department are black people. While this department fails to handle matters relating to black people's lives, they are only too quick to approve the Fireblade deal, which allows a white family to have a private terminal at the OR Tambo International Airport. This is similar to the deal the department has made with the banks to allow banks to issue smart card identity documents. This is a tantamount to handing over private details of the citizens of this country to a cartel of banks, making our people vulnerable to having their details at the hands of foreign agents. We, as the EFF, we reject this budget. Thank you.
The next speaker is the Honorable Roos.
House Chair, fellow South Africans.
Order, honourable members.
House Chair, fellow South Africans. How sacred is your vote? On the 27th of April, 1994, millions of South Africans that never had the opportunity voted for the very first time. We dreamed of a South Africa we could be proud of. One South Africa for all. Chapter 9 institutions were established to defend our constitutional democracy. The Independent Electoral Commission to ensure free and fair opportunity to exercise that hard-won right to vote. Now, in the recent elections, the integrity of the electoral process was called into question like never before. Loopholes were discovered that allowed voters to cast multiple votes. Without a fully addressed voters' roll, the forms required to register addresses ran out at several voting stations. The 2019 election was a watershed moment where it became clear that reform is needed. The IEC set about putting in place measures to safeguard the vote. These measures include the replacement of outdated zip machines with a new online voter registration technology and deployment of technology to facilitate a real-time voters' roll. Now, if someone had come to you on that day in 1994 and said that this electoral process is not important, it's not a priority, it would have been a slap in the face. Yet we are now told there's not enough money due to austerity measures. The IEC is thus left with a 300 million rand deficit and is unable to implement the measures necessary to curb multiple voting. This is unacceptable. We are told there's no money when, according to a recent study, the government spends well over 300 million rand for luxury vehicles for high-ranking officials. The DA government would redirect money allocated for luxury vehicles to address this shortfall as a matter of urgency. Free and fair elections are not a luxury, Chair. In terms of Section 190B of the Constitution, the Electoral Commission must ensure that those elections are free and fair. Our Chapter 9 institutions face a crisis of credibility. This funding is not an option. We are faced with local government elections in just 2 years' time, and we need decisive action for a change, the kind of action that Honourable Bongo was talking about. We need to address this as a matter of urgency to protect our vote, to protect our Chapter 9 institutions. The DA therefore call on National Treasury to give this funding the top priority it deserves. One vote for all, one South Africa for all. House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Chabane.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Ndlungwa, you must know that the African National Congress has various leaders and systems in place that have deployed comrades to serve the people of South Africa. We have deployed Comrade Bongo as a member of the House, credible as he is, to lead and chair the Committee of Home Affairs. You must know that the institutions that are developed by the ANC, that matters of allegations and corruptions are referred to. Secondly, Honorable Minister Aaron Motsoaledi and Deputy Minister Nzunza bring credibility and experience in the life of the organizations, hence the ANC. They've deployed them to lead the Home Affairs. These budget votes come during the months of celebrating the lives and times of struggle icon, Utata President Nelson Mandela, whom in his name the United Nations General Assembly in November 2009 also declared 18 July as an International Mandela Day. It acknowledged his outstanding contribution to the struggle for democracy and the promotion of peace throughout the world. In honor of Nelson Mandela and Albertina Sisulu, we are devoting our every action, our every effort, our every utterances to the realization of their vision of a democratic, just, and equitable society, as articulated by the President, Cyril Ramaphosa. Post-democratic breakthrough, the ANC-led government has made significant progress thus far with a progressive legislation to restore the dignity, identity, and freedom of our movement for our people. Hence, the minister brought two of our people here who clearly the EFF does not understand the historical phase of our administrative system. It's clearly that they've just been here to ridicule our people. We call you, the minister and your team, to continue with your work in restoring the dignity, identity of our citizens. This department remains at the cold face of our country's civic affairs, and it manages immigration by balancing three overarching objectives: the economic development, national security, the fulfillment of our international and domestic obligations. Chairperson, it is in this context of consolidating this common identity and citizenship that the ANC government undertook steps to ensure that every South African citizen over the age of 16 has an ID, and every child born is issued with a birth certificate within 30 days. This reaffirms the ANC position to envisage Home Affairs as a modernized department responding to the present and future needs, operating in a highly secured environment to protect the precious records of lives of our people. Most if not all South Africans appreciate that there's a steady improvement in the Department of Home Affairs in delivering services to our people, and we remain committed to ensure that we have safe and secure South Africa, where all of us will be proud, where all of our people will be proud of, value their dignity and citizenship. In demonstrating that the ANC is a listening government, challenges which in the past years have been put the department in a negative space, which includes amongst the following: the long queues in our service points, prolonged turnaround time of issuing IDs, passport, visa, and other related documents. Members of the opposition parties, EFF and the DA, you must know that the ANC from time to time assess its policy implementation in order to improve its operational efficiency in government. As a result of the ANC policy directive, the department has introduced the biometric system, and it has 193 offices where live capture is located. The department has also improved the turnaround time for issuing passport, which is now between 14 and 30 days, unlike before where it was used to be more than 2 months. The department is implementing electronic queue management system,
which contribute positively enhancing our frontline customer services while reducing waiting period for our people to receive services. In the same vein, Chairperson, the department established a service point in 391 hospitals where our people are able to access birth and death registration document. We would like to dismiss this false narrative by the opposition parties that the ANC policies are not implemented successfully. Chairperson, in our effort to find the demon of corruption, the department is working tirelessly to narrow the late registration of birth, which were open to abuse and fraudulent acquisition of South African identity and citizenship. It is also important to note the progressive partnership between the department and the banks, which enable citizens to apply their smart ID cards and passport. As the minister has alluded, to date, 13 banks has Department of Home Affairs service points, which its frontline custom services are Home Affairs officials. This is a demonstration of ANC government at work. Minister, ANC called for the department to extend its services to rural areas in the next financial year. Chairperson, one of the pillars of the NDP is the building of a capable developmental state and reduction of poverty. It is therefore encouraging that the Department of Home Affairs has embarked on a large-scale modernization program that will enable the department to provide services efficiently and securely. In support of the NDP, the department has adopted a more approach to immigration in order to expand supply of critical skills in a manner that contribute to economic growth, tourism, and job creation. The ANC appreciates the commendable work done to this extent by the department regarding the introduction of e-visa regime, which is at the testing stage. As espoused by the President during SONA, we are also pleased that significant progress has been made in restoring policy certainty in the visa regime. Chairperson, the 54th National Conference resolved to reposition Home Affairs as a core security cluster department with adequate resources to enable it to achieve its vision of a modern and secure department managed by professionals. The ANC has mandated that a comprehensive and trustworthy population register has to be developed in which it will enable government to have an accurate picture of our national profile. Such a population register will keep accurate records of birth, marriage, death certificate, and ensure that are timelessly, effectively, and efficiently registered. It will further enable government to plan social services such as basic education, health, social security, amongst others. The ANC commend Home Affairs for achieving unqualified audit in the previous financial year 17-18, and we urge the department to achieve the same in this financial year. Lastly, Chairperson, we must again commend the IEC for good work, however noting its budgetary constraints. The IEC, since its inception, has been confronted by many challenges when conducting its electoral function, but remains one of the best institutions compared to other countries. It remains a credible, trustworthy electoral management body which continues to strengthen our constitutional democracy. The committee must advocate for more allocation towards IEC in order to improve its strategic objectives in line with annual performance plan in the next financial year. This will in turn enable the institution to replace its ailing outdated technology, which it includes, amongst other things, the zip machines. Chairperson, the ANC support this budget vote. Siabo.
The next speaker is the Honourable Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable Metlua, we agree with you only on one point. The problems caused by CETA, where our systems are always, our computers are always offline. It is giving us headaches. It's giving us headaches. And we are trying our best to talk to CETA to resolve them. It's a big problem for the country and for its development. Honorable Pambo, let's do things this way, honestly. I don't think it's fair to come here and behave as if the women we brought here are young girls who can't think for themselves, who were dragged here to be paraded, is to say, when they are adults, and you think we just drag them and you are the one who must think for them. Are you not the one who's undermining them because they are black women? Assuming that they can't think, you have got to think for them. We've been talking to them about this issue. They want closure. They are prepared to be our ambassadors and help us to help other women who are in this problem. They make a deliberate choice.
Point of order, Chairperson.
And you come here and say,
Point
they are
of order,
being paraded.
Chairperson.
Honourable Minister, let me hear what the point of order is. Yes, Honourable Member.
I think it's important that I don't allow the minister.
What is the point of
Yeah,
order?
I'm getting I don't speak the way you speak. I'll speak the way I speak. Allow
No,
me this-
what is,
No,
you must
no,
state, you
no,
must
no.
state what the
Chairperson,
point of order
Chairperson,
is. Order, Honourable
Chairperson,
Members.
Chairperson,
You-
Chairperson.
Order, Honourable Members.
Cha-
Just
cha-
state what the point of order is.
Chairperson, I think the minister is deliberately misrepresenting that which, Chairperson, give me a chance to, don't intimidate us, please.
State the point of order, Honourable Member.
The minister is misrepresenting the speech that was made earlier by the EFF, in particular myself. At no point did I say they can't think for themselves. In fact, if anything, my suggestion is this, that it's humiliating.
Honourable Member, it's not a point of order.
Chairperson, it's a
No,
point
Honourable
of
Member.
order. Chairperson,
No,
there is a
Honourable
speech.
Member.
She's referring
Order,
to a
Honourable,
speech that
order,
was made.
order, Honourable Members. Order. Honourable Member, it's not a point of
No,
order.
no,
You see,
Chairperson, these things go on the record.
when you make
You
a
must
speech,
never, ever
Honourable
say
Member,
that I said black women
will
cannot
you,
think for themselves.
will you
That's
take
what
your
he's saying.
seat now? You are now,
He's misquoting me.
you
If
are
you
now
want, I
going
can give you
beyond
the
what the
speech.
rules state what the point
You
of
quote me
order is.
verbatim.
Take your seat.
Misrepresentation of facts.
Take your seats.
On a point of order,
What
Chair.
is your point of order, Honourable Member?
The honorable minister is
No, I think
The
honourable
honourable
order,
member.
honourable members, order.
The
Order.
honorable minister is misrepresenting what Honorable Pambo is saying.
Honourable member,
So
I've
he
already
must not
ruled on
say
the matter.
what-
It
Yes,
is not
please.
a point of order.
No, but he was referring to the speech.
It's not a point of order.
It's what?
Take your take your seat, please. It's not a point of order. Why are you rising, honourable member? Is it on the same point?
I raised on the same point. I think
I've
you've been
made a ruling.
unfair. You've been unfair to rule in favor of the minister. When
I've,
it's clear that he's
I've made a
misrepresenting
ruling
the
on the matter, and now you are reflecting
That's
on my ruling,
unfair.
which
Point of
is
order, Chair.
against
On record that
which
you
is
have been
against the
unfair.
rules. Take
Point
your
of
seat,
order, Chair.
please. Take
Point
your
of
seat.
order. Okay, Chair. Chairperson, people must state what point of order they're
No,
raising on.
honourable member.
But secondly, minister must be asked
Honourable
if he said
member,
that.
take your seat. It's not a point of order. Let's allow the minister to proceed. Proceed, honourable minister.
Chairperson.
Why are you rising, honourable member?
Kemela kamolawana wa bo 27 o mo di rulung wa gore ga gona ope o letleletsweng mo ntlong ye gore ga a bue puo e seng ya nnete ka mong
Honourable member, take your seat. The rule doesn't say that.
so ke kopa gore
You quoting
no
the wrong
man you
rule.
will read the proper
You
rule
are
there is
quoting
something
the
like
wrong.
that in
Honourable
your
member,
rules.
as a whip, you
There
should
is something
understand the
like
rule.
that in your rules.
Take
You'll
your,
rule- you'll
take your
read
seat,
those
please.
rules.
You're quoting the wrong rule. Continue, honourable minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. I want to repeat, the two ladies who came here came out of their will and they knew exactly what they were doing.
On
And
a
to
point
come
of
and
order
imagine-
again, Chair.
What is the point of order now,
But
honourable member?
it's totally unfair. You have just ruled on this matter. The minister cannot go back to that matter because the speaker who
Honourable
was
member,
speaking about
honourable
the matter,
member.
Chair, can you give us chance,
No,
please?
honourable member, I've dealt
that
with
is
the
not
point of
true.
order.
It's not what the member said.
The minister.
It's not what the
Honourable
member said. The member
take
never.
your seat.
But Chair, this thing
Take
of
your
yours
seat
of
now.
abusing
Take-
us.
take your
no,
seat now.
man, no.
Honourable minister, will you continue, please?
Chairperson, I'm repeating. To say people are being dragged and be paraded here with their pain is to assume that they came here being dragged. They were not willing. Yes, it's not an assumption. That's exactly what he's saying. And I want to say, please stop undermining them because they can think for themselves. And we've spoken to them. And they've willingly agreed to be our ambassadors to bring this to an end. And the manner in which they've dealt with this issue makes me believe they are a better representative of our people
Safari.
than you. They are the
Safari.
ones who should be sitting here.
Of your abuse.
No, honorable members, no. Let us not allow this debate to degenerate. Honorable members, when you want to be heard, you can't just, Honorable Pambo, switch on the mic and speak as you want. You can't do that. It's wrong. It's wrong. Continue, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chair, in a normal world, those two ladies are the ones who should be sitting here representing our people. Not the honorable member who's undermining them.
Order,
Because
Chairperson.
they are more
What is your point of order now, Honorable
They
Member?
can think than him.
Chairperson, the Honorable Minister had brought two members, two citizens. Why is it that both of them are black?
That's
why,
not a point of
why
order.
don't we have a white woman there?
Honorable Pambo.
Why is there no white woman there?
Take your
As an
seat.
example, you want to
Honorable
parade
Pambo,
black pain.
take your seat. That's not a point of order.
You want to parade black pain, you.
Honorable Pambo, that's not a point of order. You must read the rules. Study the rules. Continue, Honorable Minister. Continue, Honorable Minister.
Miss,
Order, Honorable Member.
Ms. van der Merwe, yes, I want to clarify issues. I said we can issue a passport and a smart ID within 13 working days. That is standard. But I said for members of this House, as we have done for time, we could deliver it in 48 hours. It's not because we are doing anybody a favor. It's because it's practical. Yeah, the system we are using today, which we are using those trucks, as you apply in all the 193 offices and the truck, as you apply that same day, the government printers will have printed it. The reason that it takes 13 days is the logistics of going to supply it in the office where you applied, because it must be couriered so that it doesn't get lost. There's no other method of sending it. Now, couriering a thing here to members of parliament, we can do within 48 hours. That's why we did it to her, we can do it to you, we can do it to anybody. It's just a practical thing. And we didn't bring, we did not bring those trucks here because we are doing you a favor. I got a letter from the chief whip of this parliament that we must bring these trucks to serve members of parliament. And we agreed. That's why we brought them here. Honorable Mayor, I thought you wrote a note, it's not here. He wrote a note to us for my speech because he said he has seen very good things there. But I don't know why he comes here and says something else. I used to believe everybody who is a minister of religion will understand. I actually gave him that copy. It's clear he did not look at it. I said there were 2,132 fraudulent marriages which were brought to our attention. 1,160. We have solved them. We discovered that they are fraudulent. We have annulled them. We have cancelled them. They no longer exist. But the other 346, we have got records to believe that these were legitimate marriages. It's only that the people who entered in them no longer want those marriages. We have got their fingerprints, their signatures, etc. Even in some cases, witnesses who were there. So we are advising them, if you no longer want your marriage, you don't come to Home Affairs, you go to court. That's how it's done normally. Once you are married and the marriage is recognized by law, and you no longer want it, you go and divorce. And divorces don't take place in Home Affairs. They take place in the court of law. That's basically what's happening here. Yes. Honorable Kanile, I really want to help you. But Mr. Sigama, who you spoke about, he's a DDG of Civics. He has just given me an email, which he responded to you on the 28th of February, 2019, at 10:41. I don't know whether that's not enough, but after this, I would like to bring him so that he meets with you to solve this problem, so that we don't have to fight here. But that's what he has given me, that he has responded. I want to meet with you and him, because he's here, and we see why we solve this issue. For us politicians to squabble here, while a child is suffering, it also won't help us. I want to resolve that issue, really. Ndate Sheikh Imam, you said you want an hour with me. You have got it. Yes, let's come and talk because, yes, we are going to help. The last issue on the banks, you know, there are certain things I don't understand. That we are giving banks, which are foreign owned and all that, we are giving them information which they are not supposed to be having. It's surprising me because every single member of this parliament has got a bank account. You have given the banks every information about you, which I don't even have in Home Affairs. Yes, you gave them who you are, you gave them address where you stay, who is your next of kin. They even know how much is in your bank account. I don't even know. But I'm being accused here. Yes, I don't even know. I'm being accused here for giving them information about citizens. They are talking about their clients who voluntarily came to the bank, opened an account and gave all the information. So what wrong have I done in giving the same information? The banks are just a station to help. Yes, so that you don't have to go and queue. It's a way to fight for the queues. So I actually don't understand what the issue is. If they are foreign owned, but all of you who are banking there, you are banking in a foreign owned institution. And why can't I use them? Please, let somebody make me understand. Maybe I'm confused. Thank you very much.
Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, that concludes order. Order. That concludes this debate. You are reminded that the combined debate on telecommunications and postal services and the communication budget votes will take place at 4:30 in the National Assembly chamber, and the debate on planning, monitoring and evaluation will take place in the old Assembly chamber at the same time. And that concludes the debate. The mini plenary will now rise.